Hey, what is going on, guys? John Shea here from the No Shame Income vlog, and today I wanted to actually talk a little bit about a recent home renovation that I decided to do in my home. Now, I know this particular video is not really a whole lot about like making money online or income or anything like that, but I really decided to utilize some space inside my home to basically turn this into another office area that both myself and my wife are going to be able to use. So I thought I would put together a video today on this. What I figured I would be able to do is show you kind of like the before of all the photos and things that like what the actual basement looked like. And then towards the end of the video, I'm actually going to walk you down there, take my camera, and we're going to do a little tour and you can actually see the full finished product. So I have a series of pictures that I've taken, but before we dive into that, be sure to throw me a thumbs up on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like these videos. And again, I'll be producing new videos each and every week. So let's dive into today's video. Alright, so I was actually able to go back and I found the listing that I had when I originally purchased the home, and this is kind of like the only photo I had of what it looked like before I moved in. So someone had done a little bit of work where they had actually put up some drywall. They had finished one section of the wall by like sealing it off. You can see here in this picture, it's a little bit small, but you kind of get the idea. They had this sort of commercial carpet down. And you can even see from this kind of like leg rest that the floor was actually very crooked because of the concrete down there. It just was not even whatsoever. So this was some of the problems that I had to address when it came to finishing this space. And what it really came down to is me kind of figuring out, you know, what do we want to do with the space? How are we gonna, what are we gonna paint it? Like all the different things that are gonna be involved in terms of costs. So I kind of figured I'd go through a lot of that, talk about that, and let's kind of look at the photos. So this is kind of an in-progress photo. You can see the ceiling was not done whatsoever. It was all open. There was a lot of plumbing and pipes. We had to go through and actually seal some of the pipes with like, I forget what they call it. It's basically like a styrofoam type material you can see here up at the top left. And there was one big light with two bulbs in it that I was actually using here within the basement. That was like the only light source on this side. So it was very dark. It was basically just used as a storage area and really wasn't very ideal. There was no like light switch as soon as you come down. You actually had to reach up into the ceiling and flip the light switch to get the lights on. Now beyond this, I realized that I wanted to like really make the space feel somewhat finished. So we decided to actually put up framing and finish out that entire area around that white wall that you could see in the last photo here. So we basically framed this whole section all the way across and then put insulation behind that so it would basically be good against the elements and, you know, keep the heat down, all that good stuff that you get with insulation. So we were able to utilize that existing drywall, but it did need some work. As I kind of go through the photos here, one of the other problems that we ran into was that some of the piping, you can see like a little end of some of the PVC pipe here. We actually had to angle the ceiling down, and this actually came out really nice. We kind of did it at like a 45-degree angle where it's more or less flat for most of it. It angles down and then it just continues all the way to the back. It kind of makes a cool area if were to put a desk back there or have a TV hanging on the wall and have it basically be a space where we're going to be looking down at and not necessarily standing in. So let's kind of go through some of the other photos. You can see here's a better shot of that, how we did that. This was just me taking photos to kind of know where the pipes were if we ever had to access them. This was another photo of like, you can kind of see the main hallway area. So that whole back wall is where that brick was, and I had this older staircase that really needed some work done, like all the treads and the paint were just really coming apart. You can see we had to redo all of that ceiling, all of that needed to be framed out. There was a section here, this is actually at the bottom of the stairs, where there's an access area where you basically have to go in to get access to the main water line. So I live in a condominium where basically there's three units. It's basically like a big multi-family home, but they deeded it out as a condo. So the water bill we split between all of the units, and it just so happens that the main water line actually comes off of the street and into my unit. And if I were to shut the main water line off, that's controlled here, as well as the meter that is basically getting reported back to the water company. I even recently had to replace some piping in here because my main water line shut off from my side wasn't actually working. So while I was doing this, we decided to replace that as well. And due to the way that the piping was angled here, we decided not to frame up right against the brick wall on the other side, but actually to build kind of this almost like a small staircase like turn area. And you could see these were some photos of us framing around that. And we ended up ultimately just going off of the existing wall and then kind of building out this whole lander that kind of appears here as you go down the stairs. So this actually turned out really well. I was able to use some old flooring that I hadn't used from other projects up in the upper parts of the house, like in my family room area and some of the bedrooms. So we used like some laminate that I had just laying around that wasn't being used. These are more shots of kind of doing this. You can also see the very top here was where the pocket door was that we were gonna have installed. And these were the old stairs. They had this like huge metal piece used as the stair railing. So it was just like very old style stuff. One of these stairs, I don't think you can see it in this photo, but it significantly had like wood chipped off of it. So it was kind of like almost a tripping hazard coming down the stairs, that you could potentially like, you know, miss the stair and just like fall. So all of these things had to be addressed. And of course, the wall was in pretty bad shape that was here already. And as we went through, this is kind of like finished photos making progress. So this was that whole framed out area. We put like a 2x4 here. We redid all of the stair treads, but I believe they call these stringers. These are the zigzag pieces that go under the stairs. We decided to keep because there was actually no way to get another stair tread back into the basement, like of that length. It would have been really difficult to do. So we decided to use the existing ones. They're in pretty good shape. And here you can see the finished flooring, did the quarter round, and then we actually put an access panel here, which allows me to get to that main water line if I ever needed to shut it off. You can also go behind the wall here from the other side, but this was something that I definitely wanted to make sure it wasn't like an issue trying to get back there or get access to it. So here's another shot of the stairs. I have painted these white, but I still need to finish up staining these and adding like some poly to them to give it a better look and just protect them. Here's the upper stairwell. This was in really bad shape. The paint was terrible here. We had to paint all of the trim, the door, all of the like hanging shelf area up here with the hooks. All this stuff had to be redone. When I was doing a lot of the construction as well, we did have some issues where some of the plaster had gotten damaged when I was removing things out of the basement. So I had an issue where basically I was taking an older treadmill out of there. We attempted to like take it up the stairs and ended up scuffing the wall. And this was all stuff that I had to go back and patch. But I ended up leaving a pretty significant hole here in this bottom corner, which I just kind of put in a filler piece of drywall, and it still needs to be mudded and kind of finished properly. So these are like the minor things I still have left. But let's kind of go through more of the photos. So when that commercial carpet came up, and as I said, you could tell from that little like footstool that was there, there was actually a very significant leveling issue in the basement here. And whoever did the original drywall, this wall had already been done in the back corner. You can see they actually kind of fit very small pieces of drywall right in this corner to kind of level it out. But what I had decided is, as I was going through this, the point here you can see that was sort of dug out, actually was the highest point in all of this. And if you were to stand on that, it was just significantly like a kind of a mess, like everywhere. I mean, if we were to put a futon in that back area, it's going to be tilted. If we put it at the front right, it's going to be tilted. Like anywhere, anything that we were trying to do with furniture, it was just going to be a problem. So I decided to pay a contractor, a separate contractor from the folks that were helping me with the framing and the painting and everything else, to actually come in and pour new concrete. So they actually came in, and you can somewhat see it in this photo, but there were like lines that they had done to kind of measure this out and make sure that everything was going to be exactly level. So they then came and mixed all the concrete right in the basement and ended up pretty much having me spend about an hour. I just dug up some of the loose concrete, some of the stuff that was like really loose. And of course you can see in this photo, they dug this down. There was actually a rock, and you could find like old tree roots under here. So it was like a really big project taking this on. And the finished product, they ended up pouring all this concrete and leveling this entire thing out. I spent about $1,100 on that. Beyond that, I also had electricity put in. You can see I have an outlet back on this wall. If we go back to one of the photos here, I had another one put kind of like midway up the wall, and that would be used for like a TV. I figured this wall would be good for a TV. And I also had these nice LED lights put into the ceiling, as well as another access panel up there, which could be used to, that basically is right where the water line runs for the refrigerator. So that's what controls like the ice maker and things like that. So I still have access to that. There's a little nozzle in there. You can turn it or unplug it if I ever needed to replace it. So that ended up working out pretty well. Here's another shot kind of like looking down the hallway. That was like right after I believe that was actually before the concrete was poured. And on the right side here you could see we have a pocket door that I had installed. And the reason I went with a pocket door was because we had a real struggle when it came to getting the initial washer and dryer down in the basement. And those are all separated in that area off to the right. So what I really wanted was the ability that if I ever needed to, like, if I was doing laundry, first off, I wouldn't have to open another door to get down there. And it would allow me to easily get that washer and dryer out of there, or potentially bring a new one into there without worrying about a door causing a problem. This was another shot of the concrete. I think we showed that. What I ended up doing for the floor is I actually bought this stuff off Amazon that is by a company called Forest Floor. And there's a lot of this stuff out there, but basically what this was is it's kind of like, they call it like a tile, or like it's basically like almost like a gym fitness mat that you can actually stick together like puzzle pieces. Now, this isn't the most high quality flooring, but the reason I originally bought this was I had intended to go over that uneven floor. But what ended up eventually happening was I said, you know what, why don't we just stick with it anyways? I had already bought the material. It's actually fairly decent for what it is. It does leave a lot of marks. Like if I were to go down there and my shoes were a little dirty, it will leave a lot of like scuffing all over the floor, whereas something like just walking on like a laminate or a vinyl tile would not do that. But I only ended up paying about $200 it was $200 for 200 square feet of material, and it came in this kind of walnut color. I do have to go back and probably rearrange some of the panels as I did like different designs. I just kind of fit it all together quickly. Ended up having to cut some of the pieces along the sides here to fit them properly. And I literally had exactly enough so that I could fill the whole space. So it was good that I ordered as much as I did. I thought I was going to have a whole bunch of extra, and that was going to go in the other area where the laundry was, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So here's another kind of finish shot of putting all of this in. More or less, I think it turned out pretty good for what it is. It'll also be nice because we have a daughter on the way in 2020, and I think it would be nice if she's down there like playing, if she were to like fall and take a spill. This floor is very soft because of the material that it is, and I think it's going to be a nice area for her to like hang out with my wife and just kind of spend time down there if they're hanging out, if my wife's on the computer, whatever it is, and it wouldn't be as like dangerous as say like tumbling over on like a hard floor. There's another finished shot of it, and in these pictures I actually had not put the baseboard in yet, so when we do the video and I walk down there to show you guys everything, that's all completed, so I can show that to you guys. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the photos. Let me jump over to my camera and we'll actually do a little walkthrough down there, and I'll just show everything like in video beyond these photos. All right, so I'm in the hallway, and one of the things I too wanted to mention, when I actually initially brought the washer and dryer down into this basement, we had to remove this entire beam. So that's been a little bit of a concern with like finishing the basement, and you can actually see here where some of the wall was patched because when this initially came out, it caused some issues. But I'll give you guys the rest of the tour. This is probably an original door. This house was built in 1890, so this door is probably original. Quite old. The previous owners even had like a little hole here for the cats to get down, but we just taped over it and painted right on it. So here's kind of a walkthrough of everything. Couldn't really see it too well in the photos, but I had these two sconce lights put in. There's still some finish work here. As I mentioned, you can see that drywall there, and there's some section here that needs to be finished off. I may even put like a piece of wood piece here to like finish this, maybe take this one out and do some work here. But I had a three-way light switch here put in. So basically you've got one light to control the hall up here, and then there's a second one down below. All of this trim was redone. I was going to put a piece of wood very similar to the stairs across this white beam, but this actually ended up turning out pretty decent after getting everything painted. You know, I ended up reusing all of these hooks. I probably need to replace some of these because they're in pretty rough shape. But all of this trim, even the floor here was in kind of rough shape, like it wasn't very even. There was some like issues when the guy did the laminate here. So I had all that redone. Again, still need to poly the top of the stairs, but that'll be coming soon. There's that access panel. And if we get the light on, I have a few things that I've moved down here now. This is kind of the futon that is going to be used down here. This is also the railing, and you can see all of the baseboard is now finished. So this all turned out pretty good. I really like how we ended up doing the landing. I also have one piece that I'm gonna paint this and probably put like a filler in all these cracks that go along the stair edges. And I've also got a trim piece that's gonna cover this drywall that goes all the way down. But ultimately it ended up turning out pretty good. There were some like little areas, like someone had put over in this corner some like foam stuff to seal off the space when initially they were doing like insulation in the walls. So I had to like cut some of that back, but you can actually see like where some of those imperfections were. I did this as far tight as I could. We decided to end up doing the drywall under the stairs and then kind of keep this color going with the white, and I think it turned out really nice. We just have to finish that trim edging. I do have another hole here I need to fix up, but this is actually that light switch, so this will control the upstairs hallway. So if I'm leaving or coming down, that's easy enough. And then this, I had a really nice dimmer put in with multiple settings. So you can kind of hold this down and the lights will get very, very dim or very, very bright. So it's really nice. I'm very happy with that. We ended up also going with, in this space, we did the 2 lights here, the 2 lights here, and then we did 1 light up in the hall over here. But in addition to that, I had it all put on the same light switch, basically just a cutout piece of drywall in the non-finished space over there, and another one back there just to have some light. Another project that I basically had done in this back area, which I couldn't show in those photos, was I had the old washer and dryer down here, which I eventually had removed. But now what I had my contractor do when he was here doing all the other work is we built the shelving piece here, which actually came out really nice. So this is like a nice storage area, and I do have some electric bikes which I'll likely be storing underneath. So it really just added like a nice extra place to have some storage. And then we also had this little space back here, which interestingly enough, they did not, when they originally were doing this and they built this wall, they didn't build all the way out back to here. And I believe the reason for that was the concrete was even worse in this back area. So I had another shelving unit built back here as well. And this is now great for like storing my AC units. And then we've got some like paint and old clothing and some other things here. But yeah, I've still got to go through and organize some of this. A lot of these things were spread out before all throughout the basement. But now it's turned out pretty well. I'm very happy with all of this. I'm probably going to, a buddy of mine had like some of this mat material that he was using in his basement he's no longer using. So I'm likely going to put that all through this like unfinished area, as well as over this kind of like clean out section where I've got the dehumidifier running, so it will cover right over that concrete brick. You can see how this ended up turning out, where you still can kind of get back here to that main water access line, but it's ultimately not like the best way to do it. There's a few more things we have to do with the pocket door. This 2x4 needs to be moved, and then I still have to install the door latch that will go here to actually close it. But for now, it's more or less finished, so that's why I wanted to show you guys. The flooring again came out pretty nice, and I think the baseboard, I actually did all this last night and it seems to have stuck pretty well. So I'm happy with that. Turned out I kind of used this like black office stuff. In terms of like setup down here, what we're probably gonna do is my wife's computer is gonna go over in this corner. We're gonna have most likely a TV over here, and then maybe the futon on one of these walls. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but I'm pretty excited about how this all turned out. This space was literally kind of a dump. It was like not the kind of place that you'd kind of want to come down to hang out, but now it's actually turned into really a whole extra bedroom. And I believe when I remember measuring, it was about 13 feet from this wall to this wall, and you got about 7 feet from here to there. And if you go out the whole space, it probably added about another 150 square feet. So this is actually probably one of the biggest rooms now in the house comparatively to some of the other spaces that we have. And we may even build like a storage unit over on this wall where my wife will be able to like have some of her clothes down here that she doesn't use quite as frequently. So yeah, pretty excited about all of this. Some minor stuff left, but overall I'm pretty happy with how the floors turned out. The whole project in of itself took a lot of time, and I think ultimately we ended up spending, it was probably about $5,000 between the materials and having all the labor done for like the actual construction, doing the framing, the walls. I spent another probably about $800 to have some of the painting and mudding done. And it was another $850 or so to do all the electrical work, to pay an electrician to come in and wire all of these, do the lights up there, do all the outlets and the switches. And then I believe beyond that, the concrete was another $1,100. So give or take, we were in probably like you know, I can't remember exactly, but probably about $7,000 to $8,000 range. So I think this came out pretty good given the price I spent, the fact that we were doing a lot of framing, all this extra work that came into play here. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about some of the things that I've been doing in terms of like, how am I able to afford a project like this? I actually did all of this out of pocket. I did not take out any loans or anything like that to do it, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. But yeah, what I've been doing is actually going out there and working with small businesses, helping them with their local marketing. So for example, as of this past week, I went and signed up a new personal trainer who is trying to show up higher for like personal training in New York City or in Manhattan. So I'm working with them, they pay me every month, and I actually go out and I have partners that help me fulfill a lot of the work. So it's a really, really great business model. If you guys want to learn more about how I'm doing that, definitely check the link below in the description. I'll leave a link to go check out my ebook. And if you have any questions for me, leave me a comment below and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks for watching.